Have you ever felt that sting of disrespect, the moment when someone you gave your time, your trust, and even your heart to suddenly treats you as if your presence means nothing? She doesn't say it outright, but in her actions, in her tone, in the way she crosses lines she once feared to touch, she sends you a message. You'll always be here. I can treat you how I want, and you'll never leave. And that is the silent bet many women make. They bet on your attachment. They bet on your fear of loss. They bet on your weakness. And most men prove them right. They chase, they explain, they beg for respect that should have been there from the start. And in doing so, they lose not only her respect, but their own. But here's the truth. A Stoic man never plays that game. He doesn't plead. He doesn't fight for scraps of validation. He doesn't hand over his power to someone who doesn't value it. He remembers the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Welcome to Stoic Reflections, the channel where ancient Stoic wisdom collides with modern relationships, human psychology, and the battle every man faces between dignity and desperation. Here, we don't beg for attention, we don't compete for love, and we don't negotiate our worth. Instead, we master ourselves. And in mastering ourselves, we reshape the world around us. In today's video, I'm revealing the 5 silent moves that make women regret ever disrespecting you. These are not tricks, not manipulations, not revenge games. They are principles, rooted in self-control, silence, and unshakable standards. Moves that turn disrespect into distance, and distance into power. If you've ever been ignored when you deserved attention, if you've ever stayed too long when you should have walked away, if you've ever felt the weight of giving your all, only to be treated as if you were replaceable, this video is for you. Because once you understand these silent moves, you'll never beg for respect again. You'll stop being the man who explains himself, and you'll start being the man whose absence speaks louder than any words ever could. This is Stoic Reflections, and today we begin. 1. Cut off access without warning. Disrespect doesn't come with a warning. It comes in small actions, a dismissive tone, a boundary crossed, a promise broken. And the truth is, the very moment she disrespects you, in her mind, you've already been devalued. She's tested your limits, and now she's waiting to see what you'll do. Most men make the fatal mistake here. They explain. They sit her down for a lecture. They write long messages about respect. They beg her to understand. But here's the harsh truth. The moment you explain your worth, you've already lost it. Respect cannot be argued into existence. A Stoic man never negotiates his value. He doesn't plead for understanding. He acts. And the action is simple. Cut her off, completely and silently. No warnings, no speeches, no dramatic exit, just absence. For too long she assumed that no matter what she did, you would still be there. You'd answer the late-night calls. You'd respond to the half-hearted texts. You'd orbit around her world like a loyal shadow. But when you vanish without a trace, she is forced to confront a silence she never prepared for. And here's the power. That silence carries more weight than any argument ever could. No closure, no explanation, no fuel for her ego, just emptiness. And in that emptiness, regret begins to grow. But this only works if the cut is total. Half measures kill the move. Blocking her number but still checking her social media, that's weakness. Unfollowing her but secretly watching her stories, that's leaving the door half open, leaving one channel of communication alive, just in case. That means she still owns a piece of you. The Stoic man doesn't leave threads for her to pull. He burns them all. Delete her number. Block her everywhere. And do it without announcement. Quiet absence is the loudest statement you'll ever make. But here's the hardest part. Your mind will betray you. The urge to check if she noticed. The temptation to see if she reached out. That's the real test. Because if you've cut her off physically but she still lives rent-free in your head, you haven't truly cut her off at all. That's where discipline comes in. Redirect that energy into yourself, into the gym, into your mission, into your growth, into your circle of brothers who sharpen you. Because the moment you stop obsessing over her and start investing in yourself, you've already won. By the time she realizes your silence, by the time she feels the absence she never expected, you'll already be gone, building a life that no longer includes her. That's the first silent move, cutting her off without warning. 2. Level up quietly. When most men walk away from disrespect, they fall into a dangerous trap. They sit in bitterness, replaying conversations, imagining different outcomes. They waste nights scrolling through her profile, waiting for signs, waiting for closure. And in her mind, she assumes you're stuck there, frozen in place, thinking of her, orbiting her shadow. But the Stoic man flips the script. He doesn't sit in the ashes of disrespect. He transforms. Quietly. Relentlessly. He becomes the man she no longer recognizes. The man she thought she could leave behind, only to realize he has outgrown her in every possible way. And here's the secret. This transformation must be silent. You don't broadcast every workout. You don't announce every win. You don't post every success just to prove a point, because the moment you try to prove your growth to her, you've already lost. Real growth doesn't seek validation. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It speaks in silence. Months pass, you rise higher, and when she finally looks again, the gap between where she assumed you'd be and where you actually are is undeniable. It's devastating, because she realizes you didn't just move on. You elevated into a reality she can no longer reach. But this transformation can't be surface level. If you only change one area, she can dismiss it as luck or temporary. But when everything changes, your body, your mindset, your finances, your discipline, your presence, she cannot ignore it. Even if her pride silences her lips, deep inside she knows she underestimated you. Here's the truth. You're not leveling up to make her jealous. You're not doing it to spark regret. You're doing it because real transformation makes sure you'll never again attract the kind of disrespect you once tolerated. Men who level up quietly don't chase. They don't look back. They don't live for revenge. They rise so far above that her opinion no longer matters. This isn't a 30-day experiment. It's not a prove her wrong challenge. It's a permanent shift. It's waking up earlier, lifting heavier, reading more, cutting out distractions, replacing weak habits with strong ones. And when you live like this consistently, your life becomes the loudest response. Your success becomes the silence that screams. And that silence creates a regret no words could ever match. That's the second silent move, leveling up quietly. 3. Stop explaining yourself. Most men believe that if they explain themselves well enough, if they carefully describe their boundaries, if they lay out every reason with perfect clarity, she will finally understand. But here's the truth. Explanation doesn't create respect, it drains it. When you explain yourself to someone who has already disrespected you, you are not clarifying your value, you are negotiating it. And the moment you negotiate your worth, you've already lost leverage. The Stoic man knows this. He doesn't beg to be understood. He doesn't argue for validation. He doesn't write essays trying to justify his decisions. Instead, he lets his silence and his actions speak. Because here's what happens. The moment you pull back, the moment your calls stop, the moment your energy shifts, she will try to pull you back into conversation. It usually starts with words like, "I just want to understand." But understand this, she doesn't want clarity. She wants control. She wants to know if she still has influence over you, if she can still tug at your emotions, and if you explain yourself, You hand her exactly what she's fishing for: your energy. This is why Stoic men don't explain. They don't argue. They don't defend. They don't give speeches about their worth. They walk away. They let silence carry the message. Because silence cannot be debated. Silence cannot be twisted. Silence cannot be argued against. And this principle doesn't just apply to women. It applies everywhere. Friends who doubt your discipline. Family who questions your vision. Colleagues who mock your habits. If they respect you, they won't demand an explanation. And if they don't, no explanation will ever change their mind. Ironically, the less you explain, the more respect you command. Why? Because explanation is rooted in uncertainty. Silence is rooted in certainty. People respect the man who doesn't need to argue his worth. And for the woman who disrespected you, this silence is devastating. It shows her she's been erased from your frame. You didn't beg, you didn't fight. You didn't even bother to explain. You simply removed her and kept moving forward. That's the third silent move. Stop explaining yourself. 4. Redirect your energy to a better circle. Walking away from disrespect feels like a victory, but it's not the end. It's only the beginning. Many men cut ties with a toxic woman, but they make a fatal mistake. They leave emptiness in her place. And emptiness is dangerous. Life always fills a vacuum. If you don't replace what you walked away from with something stronger, mediocrity will drag you back. That's why so many men return to the very woman who disrespected them. Not because they love her, not because they miss her, but because they never built anything to replace her absence. The Stoic man understands this. He doesn't just walk away from the wrong people. He walks into the right spaces. He builds a new circle. He surrounds himself with men of ambition, with environments that demand more from him, not less. Because your environment shapes you more than your willpower ever will. You can talk about discipline, ambition, and growth all day long, but if your circle lives for comfort, excuses, and distractions, their gravity will pull you down. That's why a Stoic man chooses carefully. He enters rooms where mediocrity dies, where excuses sound weak, where growth is expected, not celebrated. These environments sharpen him. They force him to rise. They make him stronger than he could ever be alone. And here's the part most men miss. She notices. She sees that you didn't just leave her. You left the entire world she still lives in. She sees you thriving in an atmosphere she cannot enter. And that is when regret burns the deepest. Not because you reminded her of your value, but because you built a reality where her presence is irrelevant. She no longer has access, not just to you, but to the world you've built. That's the fourth silent move. Redirect your energy to a better circle. 5. Shows zero emotional recoil. When a woman disrespects you, especially one who once valued your presence, the natural instinct is to fire back, to show anger, to reveal the pain. But here's the truth. The moment you react emotionally, she feels powerful. Your reaction proves she still owns a piece of you. That's the hook she wanted, to know that even in disrespect, she still has influence. But the Stoic man doesn't give her that satisfaction. His response isn't rage. It isn't dramatic outbursts. It isn't long speeches. His response is silence wrapped in composure, calm, unshaken, untouchable. This isn't fake apathy or forced coldness. It's genuine discipline. It's the ability to separate your inner feelings from your outer presence, to absorb disrespect without flinching. Not because you don't feel it, but because you refuse to give her proof that she still controls you. And that silence cuts deeper than anger ever could. This principle doesn't just apply to relationships. In business, manipulators fail because you won't take the bait. In family disputes, old wounds lose their grip. In social dynamics, no one can drag you into their chaos because you've mastered your own. A man who shows zero emotional recoil cannot be played. He cannot be rattled. He cannot be broken. He becomes untouchable. And for the woman who disrespected you, that realization is devastating. No angry text to replay. No bitter words to analyze. No emotional threads to hold on to. Nothing. You left her with silence, and that emptiness haunts her more than any insult ever could. This is not a tactic. This is not a game. This is mastery. The mastery Marcus Aurelius spoke of when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the fifth silent move. Show zero emotional recoil. The man she thought she could bend has risen beyond her reach, never again to be broken, never again to beg for respect. Life will test you with the same lessons again and again until you draw the line, until you stop giving second chances to those who would never give you one, until you stop negotiating your worth. Real strength isn't loud. It doesn't need validation. It lives in silence, in discipline, in unshakable standards. That is what makes a man unforgettable. The world doesn't honor what you say. It honors what you tolerate. And the moment you stop entertaining disrespect, everything changes. You step into a power that cannot be taken away. You become the man she remembers long after you've gone silent. Not because you begged, not because you explained, but because you mastered yourself. That is the Stoic spirit. That is what makes you untouchable. And that is what makes you unforgettable. If this message hit home, drop a comment. I'm untouchable. Like this video, subscribe for more. Share it so other men can save themselves years of wasted time. Remember, your silence, your standards, and your discipline will always speak louder than words. Stay strong, stay disciplined, stay stoic.